Hey guys, it's a beat builder here. If you're new to my channel, I create live looping videos of popular song covers, as well as tutorials to help you learn how to work your own MIDI keyboard. Today's tutorial is going to be a continuation of my tutorial series where I teach you how to work the Akai MPK Mark III, the MIDI keyboard I use in all of my live looping covers. If you're a beginner new to this MIDI keyboard and are confused about how to download the drivers for it or understand its basic features, I would highly suggest you check out the first tutorial in this series, which will be linked down below. If you're confused about any of those things, I would highly suggest you check that video out first before watching this one. So in today's tutorial, I'm going to be showing you guys how to create your first beat or song using the Akai MPK in a DAW. Although the Akai MPK Mark III does come with free software being MPC Beats, I'm actually not going to be using that DAW for this tutorial, as I prefer using Cubase Pro 13, which is the DAW I use in all of my live looping videos. Although I will be using Cubase Pro 13 in this tutorial, even if you do not own this DAW and you have a different one like FL Studio or Logic Pro, many popular DAWs out there are very similar, so some of the basic features of the DAW I will be showing you guys can most likely be transferred over to the other programs that you're using. So the first thing you're going to want to do when going into any DAW to create a new project is you're going to want to save that project, and to do this usually you go to File, Save As, and then you would save it as the project title you would want to and choose your location. I've already named this one Tutorial Video 2 for the purposes of this video. The first time you go into a DAW, it can be pretty confusing if you've never seen one before, and there are a lot of different features which can feel overwhelming. It does take time to learn all the features of a DAW, just like when learning any new thing, so my best advice would just be to watch lots of YouTube videos and stay patient with the process. So in Cubase Pro 13, on the bottom section over here is where you're going to find all of your features for playback of tracks, pausing, and activating loop cycles. So for Cubase specifically, this will set you to the previous marker, the next marker, you can rewind, forward, and if you click this button right here, it'll activate a cycle, so a looping cycle. I use this feature a lot in my covers as they're all live looping videos. So what I'll do is I'll click on here on the pen icon, and I will drag this purple little bar over how many measures I would like to be played back, and you'll notice they're highlighted, so when this is off it won't play back, but when this is on, these 4 measures will play back in a continuous loop. Next to the looping button you have stop, start, and start recording. A cool feature about Cubase that I really like is that you can also drag or expand this bottom toolbar here, so you can have as many or as little features that you would like to see as you're working. Further along you will see your metronome here, so here is where you would do your BPM or beats per minute, so that is how fast your metronome is going to play back, which will keep you in time as you play, especially when you're adding drum kits. This is how I would activate my metronome on and off, and this is the count-in for the metronome. You can also decide the click pattern you want and which beats you would like to stress as the metronome is playing. On the top hand side over here you have your basic icons, so object selection, range selection, the draw tool, the erase button for if you want to delete any tracks, splitting, so if you want to split a track in two, which I will show you guys later. You have your glue tool, your mute tool, zooming in, composition, a time warp, align, playback, and color, so you can actually change the color of your tracks. I'm not going to go through every single feature that is available, because if you're just starting out, likely you will just want to go straight to creating, but those are kind of the basic features that you should know whether you're using any DAW. In Cubase Pro 13, all of your instruments, effects, loops and samples, and presets will be found in this media tab on the right hand side of your screen. So for example, if you were just starting out and you didn't actually want to create any of your own sounds, but rather use loops and samples that were already provided, you would click on this loops and samples button right here. This will load up a bunch of pre-made sounds by other artists, such as ambient lounge, analog techno, and they will all be sorted in different genres. However, for the purposes of today's video, I'm not going to be using the loops and samples, but instead I'm going to be showing you guys how to create a simple song from scratch using drums, bass, guitar, keys, and synth. So this process I'm going to be using to choose instruments, add any effects, and all that stuff is the same process I actually use when I'm creating my live looping videos. I also forgot to tell you guys, but this drop down bar right here basically is where I do all of my inserts for instruments. So it's where I'd get all my effects like analyzer, delay, distortion, etc. And if I go over here, I have my Mixdown, so where I can control individual volume levels for different tracks. And how I got this drop down to appear was I simply went over here to the top right hand side and clicked show or hide lower zone. You can do this with any of the zones on Cubase, so you can make this disappear and really customize your workspace how you would like it to look. This workspace I currently have right now is pretty typical to how I would start my live looping videos. Usually I'll drop this down until I actually start recording, but otherwise it would be up. So first things first, I'll usually always choose a drum kit to start off my song. So I use this virtual plugin, drum kit called GrooveAgent SE5. So what I will do is drag it onto a track over here. Once it loads, I will have all these pads, which are actually connected to the drum pads on my Akai MPK mini, and that is how I will load drum preset sounds onto them. So I have lots of drum kits to choose here based on the ones I've downloaded. So usually I would just click on all, and some of these are not actually downloaded, the ones with the red, but any of these other ones that don't have that red in front of them, I have access to. So I will usually just, for example, click on the one I want. So let's go with the Grooving Future Kit 01. I use this in quite a lot of my videos. So now I'm going to just play a couple notes. So as you can see, the drum sounds are now directly loaded onto these pads, and if I open this up here, you can see it when I play. The kick is visible up there, and it's connected to my virtual instrument. When you first go into your DAW with your MIDI keyboard, usually it will just automatically connect and you will be able to directly start playing virtual instruments through your MIDI keyboard. But if for whatever reason it doesn't connect, you just need to make sure that your audio inputs are set to your MIDI keyboard as your output device. So now I'm going to make sure that my metronome is on. We're just going to take that away. And I've already made sure that I have a 4-beat that is looped, so when we play this back it will continue to loop. And now I'm going to count in and record a basic drum beat. So as you can see, that saved my recording, and now we have our first basic drum beat into Cubase. So usually once I have my drums in, I will actually take off the metronome just because now I already have a solid beat in place to help me keep on track. So the next thing I will do is go and find an instrument that I can use as a bass. So I actually use this Synth plugin to find most of my instruments, whether it be bass, guitar. It's called Halion Sonic, and you've probably seen it used in a lot of my videos. So drag the track down, you will see now Halion Sonic is available there. And if I go to all, I can choose which instrument I would like. So I'm going to click on bass, and these are all my bass options that I have to choose from. So I'm just going to go with a slap bass one. You can see how it sounds. And I'm going to turn it down an octave just because basses are usually lower. So an important thing to note is that if you're first starting out and you're wanting to learn how to play a MIDI keyboard, some background knowledge in music theory would be especially helpful, because when you're first starting out, knowing which notes to play next or which chords to play can be pretty confusing if you don't have some basic understandings of music theory. I will be doing a tutorial on basic music theory and chord progressions in the future, so if you're kind of unsure on which notes to play or which chords to use, I will be having a tutorial on that soon. So I actually went back real quick and changed the drum kit beat to be a little bit more simple, so here's how it sounds now. Okay, so now that we have a little bit more of an easier drum beat to make a bass line to, I'm going to be doing a bass line in the key of C. And as you can see, it's kind of just playing back as it goes because it's looped. Another important thing to mention that would probably be pretty helpful so you can organize your instruments and know which is which in case you don't remember the names of your plugins is by renaming the tracks to the instruments you're using. So I do this by double clicking here, and then I would just be able to change it to the instrument I'm using. So here I'd probably just say drums, and that way I know that that is a drum. So now we're ready to move on to the next thing in the track, and I think I'm going to go with a simple synth pad. So for the synth pad, I'm going to be going back into Halion Sonic because I know they have a bunch of good synth pads. And then I'm just going to click on all, go to synth pad up here, and then choose any one of these synth pads that I like. So considering this song is pretty simple, I think I'm just going to go with this synth voice up here, and this is how it sounds. So pretty simple, it'll just complement the bass well. And because the synth kind of ends when I stop playing it, as you can see, and I don't have a sustain pedal currently attached to my MIDI keyboard, I'd probably want to put some reverb on it to make it go for longer than I play it for. So in Cubase 13, in order to put reverb or any other special effect onto one of your tracks, you simply want to go down here to the Inserts tab, which is just below the faders or mixdowns. And then you'd want to make sure the track you're wanting to add the effect to is highlighted. So in my case, it's already highlighted over here. And then you can just put your effect into any one of these drop downs. So I'll go with the first one here, and I will find the reverb drop down, which is over here, and then choose from any one of these plugins. Revelation is personally my favorite reverb plugin. So now you will hear when I play. I can adjust the levels and make it delay for as long as I would like it to. So after playing around a bit, I managed to find a reverb setting that suited the synth. So now I'm going to click the record button here and wait for the metronome to count me in so we can record the synth. So now we have our synth sound, which has been recorded there, and you'll notice I also changed the tracks so they now read drums, bass, and synth, a lot easier to understand. So for this simple tune, we're going to be adding two more instruments. One is going to be a guitar, and the last is going to be a melody in the form of piano or keys. So I'm going to go ahead and add a guitar sound first and add the keys melody last. Usually in my live looping covers, the melody comes last, but sometimes there are exceptions. So for the guitar, again, we're going to be going into Halion Sonic, dragging a new track here. And actually right it away, I will name it guitar, just so things are not confusing. And then we're going to be choosing a guitar sound, so I'll go to here where it says guitar/plucked, go to all, and choose a guitar from the drop down menu. So for the guitar, I decided to go with a muted style guitar that sounds like this. So I can do a sort of chiff style. So as you might have been able to hear, that guitar was super quiet in that playback and you couldn't really hear it amongst the other instruments. So now's when I'm really going to start to use this mix down here with all my individual track audio volume levels, so I can customize different instruments and make others louder and others softer where they need to be. So now you can see the synth is a little bit more quiet, drums are a little bit more quiet, and we've turned the guitar chips up a little bit more, so you can hear each individual instrument. For our last instrument in this 5-track melody, I'm going to be using a piano sound, which I will be getting from Halion Sonic again, drag it in, and then I'm going to be going to all, clicking on, let's go with piano, and choosing one of these. So for the piano, I ended up going with an instrument called CP006. It has a really cool sound to it. Before I go ahead and record this piano, I'm going to up it an octave, just because melodies usually sound better and can be heard more when they're higher up as opposed to the other instruments. So now everything is playing back just as you would hear in one of my live looping covers. And I'm pretty happy with the volume level of the melody, so I'll probably just leave it as is. A tip that I like to use if I ever want to make an instrument louder is I will actually add a dynamic effect, which basically will just up the volume of the instrument I'm wanting to up without overloading its decibel level. So there you have it, guys. You have officially made your first simple song or beat with 5 tracks: drums, bass, synth, guitar, and a piano lead. Obviously, you're welcome to switch up the instruments. For example, if you didn't want the piano as a lead, you could use any other instrument from trumpet to bassoon to clarinet, whichever instrument you're feeling. I'll play back my track for you guys one last time. That's going to be the end of today's tutorial, guys. I hope that you found it helpful, and if you have any other questions, feel free to comment down below. And as I mentioned earlier in the video, I will also be doing an upcoming tutorial where I explain the concepts and basics of music theory to you guys. And if you're interested in checking out any of my other covers, I have a playlist of all of my live looping covers that I have done, which will also be linked down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one soon.